How's it going, everyone? And welcome to the Game Awards special episode of No Excuses on BTWProductions.com and YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts, Still.
Fenarian.
And Volosel, and we're bringing the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week, or rather the week before, because I was horribly sick to the point of being barely able to talk coherently last week. So we postponed that show, and so we'll be doing our sort of end-of-year finale show.
Yes,
as
and
our replacement.
Yeah, also, while nothing else is going on, enjoy watching Ari play Devil May Cry 5 Virgil mode. Because, damn, them some style.
I'm actually doing really bad right now because I'm on camera, obviously.
Naturally.
It's okay, they'll get to see me perform the biggest, most panicky judgment nut in the world in just a second here.
That's a thing, by the way, yeah.
Once I go the other direction, because I went the wrong way.
I love this. You were playing great before, and now that I've turned the cam on and flicked over to you, you're playing awfully. It's
well, we
fantastic.
couldn't possibly harm our watchers' opinion of us being complete incompetents.
I know, right?
We've got a reputation to uphold here.
So yeah, this will be our final episode for the year, as well
Judgment
as our Game Awards.
Night.
There he goes.
That was it. Just one.
That was it.
That once.
I see.
So we're going to forego weeks because, let's face it, none of us did anything worth noteworthy. Anyway.
As you like it, I suppose.
We will get on to the awards show. Oh god, this one this year. So, in these trying times, it was a very cringeworthy show. Not many people on the show because of the trying times, and it was in trying times because these are trying times.
Yeah, everybody seemed very interested in how trying the times are. Honestly, I haven't found these times that trying, all told.
I mean, I've got to say I've kind of missed a lot of it because I live out in the middle of nowhere, and the plague would actually die before it survived. Anyone out here actually catches it.
Well, they say that high temperatures and sunlight are bad for it.
Yes, and guess what I've got? Nothing but. Actually, it's rainy today, so, I mean, still. So, every single article and every single interview or award acceptance speech, they always said something along the lines of, in these trying times.
Well, I mean, if the times are so trying and you intend to do something about it, perhaps what you could do about that is stop focusing exclusively on the trying times instead of the video.
Yeah. How about you do something to cheer people up, perhaps? Like, make some video. And, I mean, good video.
But I mean, all told, I think that this was probably not the worst Game Awards because there was no Sonic Fox, but it was definitely the most woke.
It was, yeah. I was very nearly about to give them a credit at a few points, and then they just ruined it.
Yeah, they would basically spooge woke all over everything.
Just stop, please. Just talk about the video.
I more and more am becoming convinced that there actually is no audience for this type of thing, and the only people they're preaching to are other people who are also trying to sell that same product.
No.
It's just, it sounds like an elite circle jerk whenever they talk.
It does, doesn't it?
That would be because it is an elite circle jerk whenever they talk.
I do not know who would want to sit there and be preached to by a bunch of people who don't have any kind of special skills or anything. They just are woke, and you need to be woke too. Ugh.
Yeah. All right, let us start off. Let's start with the awards, I guess. We'll do the actual announcements and reveals later. Because there was some good stuff revealed, and then there was some really awful-looking stuff revealed. And there's a few things I have to admit just made me scratch my head and go, wah.
No, I did come away with the general impression that there were no showstoppers.
There were no showstoppers that I saw. Let me have a quick look here.
Like, there are a few times I was sort of mildly interested. Like, oh, another attempt to make a halfway decent Warhammer game. Maybe it will go well this time, though I won't put any money on it. But that was about as excited as I ever got.
Yeah. There's even a couple of games there where I just looked at it because they're ripping someone off.
Yeah, we've sort of it's sort of like, oh well, clones are so last, so last generation. Now we're just going to straight up rip off a game.
Yeah, cough cough, Panzer Dragoon. Anywho, where shall we begin our awards? Let's leave Game of the. Do we want to talk about Game of the Year because it's kind of stupidly obvious?
Well, aren't you supposed
well,
to do Game of the Year last? Isn't
Yeah,
that the
Let's
traditional
do that
format?
last then.
let's do the obscure stuff first, then the general genre topics and genre awards, and then then Game of the Year.
All right. So
That
naturally,
makes the most sense.
this year we are going to skip the Wokest of the Woke award as we always do because no, as well as all the eSports stuff because no.
Yep.
So who wants to pick an award to talk about first?
Okay.
Didn't you have a plan? I thought you had a
Kind of.
You've got slides made up or something, don't you?
I do have slides made up, so as long as you pick one of those, you're okay, and that's everything except for a couple of games, which you're probably not going to talk about anyway.
I need to find
Alright.
the Wikipedia.
Otherwise,
article.
failing that, I'll just go down the list.
The list is easier. I don't want to have to think. It's too hard.
All right.
It's been a long week.
So we'll use the Wikipedia. First up is Best Game Direction. Best Direction. There we go.
Best FNAF.
Best FNAF. So our nominees are Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Alex, and The Unpleasantness.
So, what does even game direction mean besides just more FNAF?
They explain it every time, and they described it a little bit differently every time.
Yeah, if they said Best Game Director,
I think that would make more sense. That's what they do at the Oscars. But I think that part of the reason that they say Best Game Direction is because they want to be able to jam more sort of flexibility into what they actually give the award out for, per se.
yeah.
So when they say Best Game Direction, basically, I hate to put it this way, but it's basically the edginess award. That's typically what it is. It's like who has been the most, quote, brave, unquote. And so basically, while it is not explicitly a woke award, the wokest in category almost always wins.
Yes, so it goes without saying, of course, that the winner was Last of Us 2, The Unpleasantness.
Now, if it was Best Game Director and Neil Druckmann got an award, I don't think anybody would stand for it.
Yeah.
Because Neil Druckmann is clown.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily mean that means he's a bad director, but he's an absolute clown that everybody hates. And his decisions are all bad. That doesn't mean he doesn't know how to compose a shot, but it does mean that he just has bad taste generally.
So we've ragged on Last of Us 2 as it is, but like even the people who like the game don't think it's Game of the Year award material. Doesn't even deserve to be there.
It really doesn't. It is here because it was dictated from above that it would be.
Mm-hmm.
There was a very small, but very outspoken contingent on Twitter that was convinced the Ghost of Tsushima people had come in and hacked the viewer's choice stuff.
No.
Yeah, like I watched that thing rack up. I watched the Ghost of Tsushima people set out with a will to crush the shills voting for Last of Us 2, and they did. Period. End.
Handily.
And I think that you can sort of see it in Druckmann's face each time he receives an award, and we will see a lot of his face.
Sadly, thankfully, actually, for the night, he only accepted one award himself, sort of.
No, he didn't. He appeared 2 or 3 times.
He did, but he only talked at length once.
Yeah, well, I think that's because it looked like he had absolutely no interest in the award, and I think that's because he takes everything personally. Everything. He is an unbelievable soy boy with a skin so thin you can see through it. And the fact that he got soundly trounced in the Viewer's Choice Award, I think that really stuck in his craw, because it means what that award means, and everybody knows it, even if nobody was willing to come out and say it, is that any time that award's verdict is transgressed, it's not real. It's not a real decision. It's a decision made by people who have appointed themselves arbiters and not by people who actually care about your product. There's something like a 90 to 10% ratio on how much weight the critics have versus how much weight the public opinion has. So any of these awards you win that are sort of in the same vector as the viewer's choice, which is, that's sort of a general, how do people feel, what do people feel is the best one. That, if you have an overlap with that, and the biggest case of this is the aforementioned best game. Like, when Game of the Year doesn't overlap with viewer's choice, it means the awards are a farce. And the people receiving know that.
Yes.
And so you can see Neil Druckmann has zero excitement when he receives this award.
Yeah. And it was... I didn't even listen to actually what he said, honestly.
Well, it was just generic. It was generic pat.
Yeah. Actually, should we talk briefly about... And we'll just lump them all in together. The collective Last of Us 2 acceptance speeches?
If you like. I don't remember anything about this show, especially not when Druckmann was on stage.
I don't want to give them more credit than they were deserving, honestly, because frankly, they were really embarrassing in just how they accepted the awards, because, for one, none of them turned their phones off.
I wasn't looking at the screen most of the time, so I don't know what they were doing. I
kind of tuned out when they were blathering, but at least half of the awards they got, someone was still actively receiving text messages, and they hadn't even muted their phone.
Even we aren't that professional.
I just don't talk to people. Nobody rings me.
Well, I'm one of those people who gets exasperated anytime someone calls them on the phone, because who would be calling me at this hour, no matter what hour of the day it is?
It's usually someone rings me because they want something.
Yeah.
So half of them was that. One of them was Druckmann, of course, himself waffling on. And then there was one where it was, I believe it was the best art direction or something like that. Or best audio, one of them anyway. Where you had a guy sitting on a couch accepting the award, and in the window behind him was the co-director of that part of the game.
That was so weird.
Outside this window.
That was so bizarre.
Yeah. She was just standing outside the window and staring.
It was unspeakably bizarre.
What the
I did not know how to process that. It's like, what am I looking at here? Why is this the way things are?
Is she the co-director, or is she a serial killer just waiting for an opportunity?
It's almost like the dog that normally stays outside making sad puppy eyes at you, hoping to be let inside.
Yes. But, because of the plague.
It was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it was 110% cringe.
It was. It was absolutely embarrassing. I mean, you're on a stream, accepting an award, turn off your freaking phone, and at least invite the serial killer in.
Yeah.
So, all right. As far as best game direction goes, out of these games, what would be our pick?
Where is the list?
It is Final Fantasy VII, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, or Alex.
I'm inclined. I'm inclined. I liked Hades, and I want to give it to Hades, but I also feel like Hades fell like 5% short in every category compared to Transistor and Bastion.
Yes.
If you look at them on a natural curve of progression, I expected Hades to be about 5% better than it actually was. And it's still, I think Hades is better than the other games on that list in terms of its accomplishment at what it set out to do. But in terms of bringing together, sound, visuals, and gameplay into a composite, I think that that's the sound that really lets it down, because the soundtrack was so far behind the soundtrack for Bastion particularly. Bastion's my favorite one of them, sound-wise.
I feel like hard for him to achieve Bastion perfection again.
Yeah, well, I think that Hades' gameplay is an improvement on Bastion's gameplay, but I think that the soundtrack is behind Bastion. So I feel like if you are going to view if you're going to view direction as sort of like it's a composite score of the the gameplay mechanics side of things, the production values, the stylings of the visual and audio, all viewed as sort of a composite in terms of how deftly has this puzzle been assembled, then I think Hades is a very, very strong contender, and I think the arguable victor in the category. But I feel like Ghost of Tsushima did it very, very well as well,
Yes.
and
Yes.
has a generally more ambitious scope than Hades did, because Hades was a very narrow, refined form of gameplay that was already sort of that structure, that roguelite, if you wish to use the word structure, is already a very well established one, and it doesn't stray very far outside that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Ghosts of Tsushima has to set itself apart from a absolutely glutted marketplace, and it managed to actually do that, which surprised me. And it's due to the additional polish on each of the sort of things that would be rough edges in its competitors.
Yep.
So I think that those two are roughly first equal.
Yeah.
So
for me,
for a very close second, I'd have to put Final Fantasy at the very least. Like,
the thing that lets Final Fantasy down is it's an episodic game, and I don't want to give it to an episodic game.
I think it does lose points for that, but largely because it's
also
Final Fantasy, and it
heard-
tends to get a lot of just free run for that.
I've heard that they changed things that didn't need to be changed and was weaker for having done so, which seems like a bad directorial decision. So there's sort of a approximate loss of points there, but not one that I can lock in because I don't actually know, because I haven't played it yet.
The reason I'll take first off Final Fantasy, like, it's still a very, very good entry into the series, and it is definitely worth playing, is there's some bits in it that are padding, and they feel like padding.
Yeah, and when you're already asking people to accept an episodic proposition, that's sort of unacceptable. Like, people were willing to accept the padding in a conventional JRPG structure where you go and you buy your 3 discs and you can play it from end to end if you want.
Mm-hmm.
Like that type of thing. It's an understood thing about the JRPG. Having to buy the game 3 times is not an understood thing about JRPG. So you don't have an excuse to do anything other than have top-notch content from wall to wall.
Yeah. So the biggest criticism is that most people will bring out at it is the ending of the episode, where it's just Sephiroth pops up out of nowhere and you fight him.
And that feels like a thing that's like, oh no, this is Final Fantasy. They're supposed to fight Sephiroth at the end of the game. We can't just not have them fight Sephiroth.
Yeah, so I think it loses points for that.
Yeah, it's a bit trite.
Ari, you want to talk
Ari
about
was
Alex?
trying to say something and we've cut him off several times.
Yeah.
I was just going to mention that the reason I'm giving it to Hades automatically is because, personally, Ghost of Tsushima was good, but I don't think it stood out enough to win an award like this. But
well, the thing is, I think that your view on that is slightly skewed because you rate so highly the refinedness of the game form that is present in Hades, whereas Ghost of Tsushima is definitely a game for people who are not Aristeel.
Yeah, and I get that, but
yeah,
a lot of these are, especially game direction, when we don't even know what it means. Hang on, Judgment. No. Anyway, Hades did something that other roguelikes have failed to do, and it actually made me want to keep playing until I unlocked everything and finished the game.
All right.
So that's the main reason I want to give it to Hades over any of the other games, just because it made me actually want to finish a roguelike.
All right, so just call it a toss-up between Hades and Ghost?
I think that it is a toss-up because I liked Hades so very much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not like I'm down on Hades or anything. But I feel like what it was attempting to do was very narrow, and that the judgment that, because of something it did purely in terms of game mechanics, managed to get Ari to play it through more, is not like... I don't think that the narrow class of people who are hyper-completionists is actually the benchmark against which you should judge the broader spread of game direction. And when it comes to creating a breadth of world with all of the different elements required to do it convincingly, Ghost of Tsushima got a lot of points there. There are a lot of people who go back to that game just to dick around in it. So
So that's not to
Yeah,
take
I'm-
anything away from the other two, Final Fantasy and Alex. Like, both of those games did an excellent job. Alex did a really good job of bringing the Half-Life universe to VR.
Yeah.
I felt like that
VR
wasn't.
not a
But
gimmick.
I don't think that.
I don't think that was
counts
direct.
as game direction.
No.
Well, I think that it was not game direction. It's not quality game direction in the sense that what they did is that they took existing material and they filed it down to get rid of all of the burrs and all of the rough edges, all the things that just didn't work, and made it a more convincing experience.
Mm.
But I feel like it's the end point of a very long road full of other people, and they didn't do anything specifically new. They just
Yeah.
implemented all of the things that already existed perfectly.
hmm
Well, as perfectly as we have had the opportunity to observe as yet.
Valve needs to make more games, seriously. Alright, so that's that. Next on the old list. Oh boy, best narrative.
So what are the things in the category, Fern?
Our nominees are 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim, Final Fantasy VII, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, and The Unpleasantness. Naturally, the official award went to, well, you can probably guess.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
so-
only game that the game journos know about this year.
Yeah. So Last of Us 2 had a garbage narrative.
Yep.
It was just about being edgy, and I don't believe anybody who says otherwise. It is true that it was. It's true that it was a black sheep.
hmm
And there is a certain amount of ambition associated with that.
It is
And
a
that-
story about horrible people in a horrible world doing horrible things.
The thing is that that's not brave. I'm sorry. They think it's brave. It's not brave. It is a black sheep because people don't want that story.
hmm
And it's not because that story is somehow grand and special. It is because people don't actually like it.
It's
People
also,
don't talk about how much they like the story of Last of Us 2. They talk about how remarkable it was sometimes. You know, the people who are being positive, they talk about it being remarkable, or they talk about being challenging in some way, or they talk about it being, something that disturbed them or made them think. No, none of them say they liked it.
No.
None of them say it was good either. They
Yeah.
just say all of these other sort of corollary things about it. Because actually nobody likes that story.
Ultimately, the story burned down what people liked, or the characters that people liked and had grown to know, for the benefit of a character that was new and nobody liked. They actually did a poll.
Nobody
during...
liked. There
Yeah.
are no real Abby fans, and I don't care that they had celebrities shilling for them, and I don't care that there was supposedly a poll where people supposedly voted for Abby. The reality is that nobody voted for Abby.
No,
Every
you
vote
actually
on the
noticed
Abby
they
side
never
was a
said...
troll or a bot.
Yeah, they never actually said what the actual polling result was, so it seems
I think the
like...
reason is because it would be devastating.
Yeah, digging around, it seems like it was near unanimous.
Yeah, there was no competition. They live in a world where they believe that competition should exist. They live in a world where it's actually reasonable to think that Abby is a character, let alone a good one.
Yeah, like, aside from leaving Abby out of it, there's other things that people did not like about the story. Not that, and by the way, spoilers for those who care. Joel dies in the story, and that was going to be a given. His arc had kind of finished anyway. But it's not the fact that Joel had died; it's just how he died. He died like a chump.
It's not even just that. He does die like a chump. It is a denigration of his character. It does split on the legacy of that character. But in addition to all that, their marketing basically lied to everybody and said that he was going to be a character.
Yeah, he's in it for what, 2 hours, if that.
It's pitiful.
Yeah.
Yep. Turns out to be just a golf ball.
Oh, I see what you did.
Wow,
there.
wow.
I'll work on that.
Needs some workshopping.
Yeah, like it was a fairly okay, words right now. It was a fairly good odd that the story was going to have an unhappy ending for Ellie. It's kind of the universe it's set in.
Yeah, ain't nobody surprised that it had a grim ending, though I think that the people would have been happy to receive a bittersweet ending. I don't think they were happy to, see them murder the game that they liked and sodomize the corpse.
Yeah.
So you can do a grim story fine. You can do a story where most things turn out terribly for people in
Well,
the
they
story.
did. It's called Last of Us 1.
But at the end of it, there has to be a spark of hope for the audience to hold on to at the end.
Mhm.
That they fought through all this, and now there's something that they can hope in, put their hope in, and it won't all go to crap immediately in the first 2 hours in the next game with a golf club.
I think that there probably is even room to do a straight down the line downer story without a hope spot at the end. I think you can structure that, except that it is excruciatingly difficult to do and far beyond the ability of that studio to do it.
Yes.
I think it can be done, but they did not do that. They did not do that at all. All they did is that they created a downer story, but what put people off was not that the story was a downer. What put people off was the fact that they appeared to delight in it.
Yes, they did seem to enjoy it way too much.
It's like, this is all the stuff that you liked, but you guys are gamers, and everybody knows gamers are filthy beasts.
Yes,
So
that's true.
we're just going to destroy everything that you love.
Yeah. So, that's that unpleasantness. We've already been through all that at length anyway. So, the stories for the other games. Hades is basically, I want to get out of Hades, screw you, Dad, who is also Hades.
Well, Hades is more like a developing world than a story because of the way it tells its narrative. I don't know if I would give it to Hades there.
I don't think...
I think that I wouldn't either. It was an interesting exercise in storytelling, though, and I don't really want to knock what they did, but it's not really... I don't really feel like it's even in contention for best narrative, because that's not really what they were doing. They
Yeah.
weren't trying to tell an epic. Like, look at the other choices. Last of Us, regardless of what you think about the story, it was trying to tell one, or at least to destroy an extant one.
Yes.
Ghost of Tsushima was definitely trying to tell a story. 13 Sentinels, his reputation is that it's a visual novel with gameplay as an afterthought. Final Fantasy VII, everybody already knows that story.
It's 1/3 of a story.
Hades wasn't trying to tell a story in the conventional sense. They allowed a story to accumulate over the course of time.
I mean, if there was a category for best world building, I think Hades would take it.
Well,
I think that the world that it builds is kind of narrow and vertical, and I don't really mean that in a sense of it being structurally necessarily, but it's very, very tightly focused on a small group of people and the things that they do and the reasons they do them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's told so incrementally and spread out, with many hours between the runs where you'll get new story that's actually relevant. And the story doesn't change. You the entire story from the beginning. You find out a few more things about Persephone and what's his nuts' mom, but that's it. Otherwise, it's just, Dad, I don't want to be in the underworld anymore. Let me leave. Okay, if you can punch your way out, son.
So, for the other options, it's going to be a toss-up between Ghost of Tsushima and 13 Sentinels. I don't think Final Fantasy VII counts because A, it's a story we've already seen before, and we're very well familiar with, and B, it's only 1/3 of that story.
Yeah, the thing is, I haven't seen any really solid appraisals of the story value in Ghost of Tsushima or 13 Sentinels. I've seen good things said about both of them. But in terms of if I had to just count the number of people that I've seen praising each, I've seen more people praising the story in 13 Sentinels than Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, so I haven't played 13 Sentinels, but I did play Ghost of Tsushima. And that story, it's perfectly serviceable. It does a good job, and I don't feel like I wasted my time with it, I think is my opinion I gave when I finished playing it.
For a lot of game stories, that's actually high praise.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't disappoint you and pays off everything it's trying to do with its story, but it lacks memorability, I guess is what I'm going for there.
Well, it's a story that is designed to play the role of the story for that game, sort of thing. It's not... They didn't set out with story as the structure. I think they set it out with the world and what the character hopes to accomplish, and then story is just built around that.
It was FromSoft, wasn't it?
No, that was Sekiro you're thinking of.
Oh, that is, yes.
No, this was... who made Ghosts?
Who did make Ghosts? Hang on.
Sucker Punch.
Sucker Punch.
Right.
So, I guess 13 Sentinels by default then.
Yeah, because, well, I mean, it had better be, because it's a story. Like, the game is just a story. That's what it's for.
It is a story with game kind of stuck on as an afterthought.
Yeah, I've heard the game part isn't actually all that great.
All right, moving on then. And you're going to notice something during these awards is all these slides that I've done are going to look pretty much the same. For example, best art direction. Final Fantasy VII. It is Ghost of Tsushima. It is Hades. It is Last of Us. And for a nice change of pace, Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
So Ori did more Ori. I mean, it did some fun stuff with lighting, but I don't know if that counts as what
It is
they're
very
talking
pretty.
about here.
Or Ori just did the same thing they did last time, though.
Yeah, it's the same art style and the same art feeling the whole way through the game.
Yeah. So the official award actually went to Ghost of Tsushima. Words.
I don't disagree with that. I think that in terms of the amount of sort of pop and attention you're going to get, Hades is obviously the stronger entry in the category, but Ghost of Tsushima managed to do a lot of that same sort of thing that Hades did in terms of color palettes and contrast without actually needing to go full retard into a art style that diverged from the sort of the realistic look that they wanted. So they managed to combine two art styles, whereas Hades only uses one. So I would go for Ghost of Tsushima on that one, even though I liked Hades' art style a lot.
Yeah. For Final Fantasy and Ori, they're great and they both look really nice, but we've seen that before.
Yeah, Final Fantasy, I was impressed with Final Fantasy as well, but it's sort of a weaker version of what Ghost of Tsushima did, because Final Fantasy basically combines the sort of the more realistic direction that they tried to go with Boy Band Road Trip, with the very much more high fantasy cartoon style of the older Final Fantasies, and they managed to blend the two together slightly well. But the reason why they shouldn't get much credit for that is that they had the Final Fantasy VII franchise to practice on for so long.
And it is a franchise at this point too.
Yeah, it's not the Final Fantasy franchise in this case, it's the Final Fantasy VII franchise.
Yeah, no other Final Fantasy has received so many entries other than 7. And that includes 13, which they dragged out way longer than they needed to. Also, we're not going to talk about Last of Us 2 here because it's brown. That's all I can say about the art, and that it's brown.
Brown.
Alright, let's move on from that one. So, best score and music. Where did I put that slide? There it is. And guess what? It's the same slides again. Doom Eternal, which is the other game that keeps returning time and time again. Final Fantasy VII, Hades, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and The Unpleasantness.
So, I didn't hear anything in the score or the music of Last of Us 2 that was in any way remarkable.
No.
It's just not. Like, they made a big deal about having the dude from Pearl Jam on the show for some reason. Because of Last of Us 2. But there is nobody in our generation who gives a toss about Pearl Jam. I'm sorry.
They really don't. Nobody gave a toss about Pearl Jam when Pearl Jam was at their peak, honestly.
Like, well, Druckmann obviously likes them. But I think that it's Druckmann is basically the only person who cares.
So, the winner of this category was Final Fantasy VII, in this case, which I'm inclined to agree with. Like, the Final Fantasy soundtrack is already well established, but to actually lift it up and make it sound new is quite an achievement.
Yeah, again though, he's actually done it before, and it's almost a bit passé to give
Nobuo Uematsu.
Yeah, give Nobuo Uematsu another achievement award in the music department is sort of like, so we're doing this again, are we? Yeah. I mean, he's a great composer in that particular range, but the Final Fantasy VII score has been worked and reworked again and again and again and again and again and again and again. Like, this is the final evolution of Final Fantasy VII's soundtrack to date.
Except it's in Smash Bros. Now, and they got new remixes as well.
But I'm not sure that that's really. I mean, it did have a good score, but it's not my favorite Final Fantasy score. There are things I like better about the score in 4 and in 8, and
Mhm.
there are a couple of strong points in 10.
Let's face it, 14. The score for 14 is just
The score for 14 blows the others out of the water.
yeah. Just
I don't know that
beautiful.
Nobuo Uematsu works on that though.
I think he does.
But I don't know whether it is or not. I doubt he composes everything. There's too much music.
Let me see. I will actually just check.
There's got to be a team of people. There's too much material there. But yeah, it's a good.
Yeah, here he is. He did the original composition for Final Fantasy 14.
It's a good soundtrack. Final Fantasy VII is a good soundtrack, but the thing about music is that it basically hotwires your judgment onto nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
So you won't be able to overcome that heritage when it comes to something like Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah,
You
'cause
can't overcome it
that
in
soundtrack
terms
just
of judgment.
grabs the nostalgia and fiddles with it.
Yeah, it's
The Doom
just
one
the way
does
it
as
works.
well, but not to the same degree.
No, as McGordon was more of an experimentalist with that, and they've diverged from classic Doom quite a bit.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah,
honestly, in terms of public perception, the Doom soundtrack seems to be the one that's sticking with people the longest.
yeah,
That's the
people
one
remember that.
So for best composition, is there any other game that's not on this list that might take it this year?
Goodness, what video games do we even play this year?
Thing is, it's been a very crap year for games
Yeah, there just hasn't been much of the year.
because everyone's basically said, "Oh no, the coof," and shut down shop.
I mean, we can always just give it to Devil May Cry and bang, 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 pull on Devil Trigger.
No. Yeah.
I don't think that there are people who are as excited about that. I mean, it's certainly a meme. There's no question about that.
It's
But
definitely a meme.
there was some good music in Iceborne.
Yes.
That was this year, right? Please tell me that was this
That
year.
was this year. It started this year.
Okay. What else?
Judgment. No.
I'm just digging through, actually trying to remember what came out this year. It is a very short list, admittedly, compared to most years.
Yeah, I think mostly this year was like almost all ports and sequels.
I misheard you at first and thought you said this year was almost all porn and sequels.
I mean,
Well,
yes, if you look at Steam lately.
Yeah, and Last of Us 2.
Which is both.
Just
Which is both.
grotesquerie.
Yeah, you look at Steam lately, and every time you turn your back, it comes up with some new filthy visual novel.
I hope to goodness you don't have anime as one of your recommended tabs on Steam.
I think I
Unfortunately,
do, because I looked at an anime game once.
That's all it takes, man. That's
Yeah,
all,
That's
it,
all
takes.
it takes.
And then your
No,
Steam recommended feed is all porn, all day, every day.
Crappy
Yeah.
porn.
Yeah, when it comes to scores, like the only thing that comes to mind that like I haven't played any of this year's Atelier games, but as far as I'm concerned, the Guststown team is the strongest
Wasn't there one
strongest scoring
you
team.
played?
I've been playing. I was playing some older ones,
Ah, right.
but there have been some from this year though, and yeah, the Gust sound team I think are the single best sound team in the industry. Like the stuff they produce, I like more than any of the other stuff. It is certainly a matter of taste because they work in a range which is characteristic to them, much like Nobuo Uematsu does. But they have never figured on a single awards show, no matter how many Atelier games get released. And I think that's because critics don't ever play them.
They don't.
Ever.
They don't.
No,
They're
that's
too
weeb
niche.
trash, man.
That's the problem with
Critics
these
don't
award
have time
shows is there are some games which come out and they're phenomenal, but they fly straight under the mainstream radar.
Yeah, that's more or less the issue. And if you look at the way the award shows go, they're usually the last 6 months of the year gets like 10 times the attention of the 6 months prior to it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if
just
you
whatever.
release your game in the first half of the year, you need to really do something great in order for the show
Yeah,
to
you
recognise
need to shape the rest of the year in gaming around yourself.
Yeah. And not in a terrible monetization way. Although we will come back to that later. The problem with the Music Awards, too, is it is above and beyond any other award. It is subjective.
Yeah, because I mean, there are genres that people just don't like. There are going to be a lot of people who hate the sort of almost campy JRPG-ness of Final Fantasy music at this point.
It is pretty
Because
stupid,
they sort of have defined JRPG, like generic JRPG music, since 7 came out, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's, again, Uematsu's doing.
Yeah, he's just become synonymous with it, much like you've got what's his name, Jeremy Soule in the West.
Mm-hmm.
Like the single most enduring piece of music in all of Western gaming, like in Eastern gaming, it's going to be Sephiroth's theme, right?
Yes.
One Winged Angel.
One Winged
In
Angel.
the West, it's probably the sodding Skyrim theme.
Yeah, it would have to be. I mean, there's a few other things that might come close to it, but yeah, it's instantly recognizable.
Yeah. And that's a very well constructed thematic revision of a classic Elder Scrolls tune.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jeremy Soule's a master of his craft in the exact same way that Nobuo Uematsu is. Like he does the same type of thing.
Yep. All right, next award. Let's just keep on clicking on. Best audio design I skipped because that's best sound effects basically. They gave it to The Unpleasantness. I'm just going to say give it to Alex because reasons.
Yeah, that's another one that I think is number one, it's subjective. Number two, it's like none of the sound. I don't know what angle they're talking about. Whether it's sort of like the sort of richness of the sound stage that you participate in, or whether it's just the raw technicality of how good was your surround mixing. But no matter which way you cut it, I just don't think that there was anything that exciting in Last of Us 2 sound wise. Like I think that if you're going to look at just like, oh well, you know, the cool and interesting and creative way of applying sound effects to the game, like Iceborne was better than Last of Us 2 by a country mile. They did some really interesting work generating new sounds, and they even released a documentary on how they did it, which was really interesting to watch.
Yeah, if you haven't watched it, go watch that. It is a very educational time. Very interesting.
Yeah. And I expect that probably the best games in terms of sounds and the way they're applied, there's probably indie titles out there.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, the mainstream doesn't tend to pay that much attention to audio design more than they have to.
Yeah, but like things like that, there's that indie game. What is it called? The one where it's a first-person shooter, but it's also a rhythm game, and so all of their sound effect work is baked into it.
Oh, Pistol Whip?
No, it wasn't Pistol Whip. It was. What's
it called?
It's right at the
forefront. Trying to call it to mind. Trying to call it bullets per minute.
Yes.
Oh,
thank
that
you.
one, right?
Yes. BPM.
Like that's an interesting way of playing with sound by comparison to what did Last of Us 2 did. Oh, they did generic sound effects.
We've recorded a noise of a golf club hitting things.
Well, I mean, the sound of Neil Druckmann getting railed by a tranny was probably just something that people
what?
were in this game.
No. Why?
He said it wasn't true.
And there we go. We're straight in the gutter.
Judgment.
So, yeah, it's I'm just going to give it to fuck Alex because it's a game that is designed to be played in VR with a headset on and full surround sound in.
They had a harder job.
A much harder.
They had a harder job to do, and they pulled it off
and took full advantage of it.
So in Half-Life Alyx, there's a lot of things they did. There's a lot of raw work that went into that game's sound design.
Mm-hmm.
It's not perfect though.
No.
There are some objects that just don't have the right sound effects when you clunk them against other objects, but they have an absurd amount of different materials clunking against each other sounds you can make with appropriate echo effects for all of the areas you're in, and just it's really cool. And being able to hear the squishy squish of a head crab digging around in the trash can is really useful in that game. So you know when you open.
It's not something that it's not something new that they've done, but it's just getting it right when so much detail is, for want of a better word, visible to the player.
Yeah, it adds an extra level of immersion to the game, and I definitely think that helps. That's not anywhere close to its strongest selling point, but it's certainly a noteworthy feature about Alex that I don't think enough people really talk about, because what it did with its gameplay was just so phenomenal for the VR genre.
Yes. All right, moving on.
I think
we
that
actually going to talk about that category properly.
The big loss here, I think, is that type of discussion on which game does audio design the best becomes a very much more interesting discussion when there is no Last of Us Part 2 in the room to just steal all the oxygen out of the discussion, because you know that the people who are discussing this, number one, none of them know anything about audio design. They didn't talk to audio design professionals to get their opinions on how it was executed with each one. No, they just gave it to the game that they were going to give it to, which was a game that did nothing remarkable whatsoever.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Best performance. Who cares? Games for Impact.
What does Games for Impact mean? Is it just another most woke category again, or does it actually
it is essentially the wokest category.
Highest number of soy boys nutted over buying this.
Like, if it was a category for, like, most impactful story or something like that, different matter. But it's not. It's,
this exists basically to be a woke award. Like, there is no attribute involved in being a, quote, game for impact, unquote, that is special to the extent that it should not, that it should have a category of its own. Like, if you can make a game that has a really, really compelling narrative delivering the social justice narrative of your choice, it should be able to qualify for the best narrative category on weight of that.
It's been done before. And
has it?
Well,
tons and tons and tons of people, for instance, really, really liked Disco Elysium, and the people that made it are a bunch of communist psychopaths who genuinely believe that non-communists should be murdered. Like,
yeah, I think that one's more of a separation between art and artist.
But they were still able to deliver. You can run straight down that path in that game if you want.
Yeah, you can play through the communist path if you want.
So they were able to bake their psychopathic messages into their game without actually compromising the fact that they were able to make a decent game.
Yeah, Last of Us.
Whereas Games
for
Impact is basically an award for people who can't do that.
Yeah. So yeah, the first Last of Us I think actually qualifies as well, because they had plenty of woke themes in there, but they didn't draw over attention to it. They told a story.
Yeah, so Games for Impact is basically the category of games where the preachiness has overcome the game, and we want to give an award to them so that they feel validated.
Yeah. It's you were way too overt in your preachiness, except for actually Spiritfarer, which is in there. Spiritfarer is actually quite a good game.
Is it? How woke is it?
It's not woke enough, evidently, because it didn't win. But it's not, from what I can tell, I haven't played it yet. I intend to, though, at some point. It is not overly woke. It's a sort of game that tries to grab your heartstrings and give them a good pluck, is what it aims to do.
So the actual winner.
I don't know anything about this game.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it either.
But
what I'm inclined to think is that it's probably Life is Strange 3.
Maybe.
Like, ultimately.
Don't Nod. Oh, funny that. It's made by Don't Mod, who also made Life is Strange, and Life is Strange 2.
You know, the people who automatically win this category.
Yeah.
Each time they release a game. Like, I don't know, like, who on the board of critics that designs these that determines these awards, and how many of them have slept with people on the team making Life is Strange, because that appears to be how this industry functions. But
And if it's Life is Strange, they probably are just filming their husband's boyfriend.
Okay, let's move on to something happy, shall we? Best ongoing game.
Good work, Fred.
All right. Just dig up out of the gutter. Good grief. Ongoing game. Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Call of Duty Warzone, Fortnite, and No Man's Sky. The winner was No Man's Sky, and I think I'm actually going to agree with that.
Yeah, they 180'd super de-duper hard from their original launch. And
They
I gotta
720'd is what they did.
I feel like they deserve it because they pushed on in a world where almost nobody else would have.
Yeah.
They did something that almost everybody else would have given up and gone home and hung their head and then, you know, gone to work for some EA.
I'm going to
studio
rephrase that
home.
a bit. And it's not so much go home and hung their head, it's take the money and run.
Well, yeah, in this case, although I don't know what their agreement was like with Sony. I think that there's a certain amount of risk involved there.
So 100%, I think No Man's Sky actually deserves it. They're still releasing content, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they probably will keep doing so because I think they actually love their game.
They do. It is evident that they actually love their game. So the other things is Fortnite. It's like, this is a money mill.
Well, the thing, I would shorten that by saying, rather than starting there, I would start with Destiny 2 and say Destiny 2, the reason that they don't win here is because they completely flubbed their last big release.
Their last big expansion just fell completely flat.
Yeah, it went up like a lead balloon. That's the reason for them not to win. But the other three are just cynical money machines.
Yes.
All three of them. They're designed to print money. They do not care about their communities, not one iota, and there is a good reason for that. And this is not a knock on the games. I'm not going to comment on their gameplay. Just
I am.
That
They're awful.
just that they're all cynical money machines. Well, I mean, you say they're awful, but they're pretty much generic battle royale. Generally speaking, I don't know how Call of Duty Warzone is structured because there's so many Call of Duty games. I think it's the free to play battle royale one.
It's either the battle royale one or the hero shooter one. Apex Legends is a hero shooter.
Apex Legends is also a battle royale.
It is also
as
a
well
battle royale.
Shooter. But yeah, for Apex Legends seems like a very competently assembled battle royale hero shooter type of game. Like it's not like mechanically not impressive or unimpressive. It's generally, it does its job in a competent fashion. Fortnite could, you know, their developers could go and just open fire in a bar and mass murder a bunch of people and then go back to work and everybody would still praise them because they made Fortnite. They appear to be untouchable for no reason.
Destiny 2, I think, gets a lot of credit, though, because since Bungie separated from Activision, you can tell just playing the game that there has been a massive shift in attitude.
They're trying, but they didn't bring the goods.
Yeah, they didn't go far enough, I think. They need to get rid of Eververse.
Yeah, I think that they've got too much debris of the old way of doing things hanging over them at this point.
Yeah. So they've made big steps forward. Like they've made the game a lot more newbie friendly. They've got the free to play version now. You can actually earn stuff in game through in-game means. It's just a shame that first expansion just crashed.
Yeah. And it's their fault. They don't have anyone else to blame for it. And it's not some, dramatic higher ups fault either. It's like they just didn't make quite as good a game as they needed to. And that happens sometimes.
It does.
Your vision doesn't line up with what you actually produce, or what you actually produce doesn't line up with what people actually want. I mean, it happens sometimes. You make a bad game and you need to go back to the drawing board, figure out what you did wrong and not do that next time. That's just all there is to it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Moving on then. Let us talk about the best independent game.
This is all Fern.
This
is the Fern category.
We have...
Just for the record, before we actually go into the particulars of any of these, are these all actually indie games this time?
Yes.
Okay, second question. Does Devolver Digital still count as an indie publisher?
That's an interesting question, because two of these games are Devolver.
So until Fall Guys,
I
I
think.
would have said yes, but Fall Guys has made them super much better off. I don't think we can count them as indie anymore now that they've got just market support, if nothing else.
Fall Guys
And
has
they-
an interesting actual uptake curve though, because it spiked and now it's just gone right back down again the other side. There's very
Yeah,
few
but-
people actually playing Fall Guys now.
This
But
is
they got their money.
every flash in the pan game ever, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the nominees are Carrion by Phobia/Devolver, Fall Guys by Mediatonic/Devolver, Spelunky 2 by the same people who did Spelunky 1, Hades, and Spiritfarer.
So
So Hades won it, by the way, because duh.
yeah, Hades should win it. But special shout outs to Carrion. That was a genuinely fun 2 hours. It just is too short.
It's too short, but I don't think it needed to be any longer. Because it's fun for those 2 hours, and I think it just doesn't outstay its welcome. I would have liked to maybe evolve a bit further, but
Why
I know, right?
would you do this? You're a criminal.
I know. I only realized the pun right as I was lining up the sentence. So yeah, I really enjoyed Carrion. It's just short.
Judgment. No.
Damn it. Fall Guys is an interesting distraction on the way to the grave, but once you've
I don't
played
know
it,
what you would need to do to get that to stick,
that
to get
type
that
of
to become an
gameplay.
ongoing phenomenon.
I think Fall Guys had potential to be a sticking game. Not a big one, but it had potential to have some staying power. They just didn't have a way for players that were playing with their friends to do something while their friend while they all fail and one of their friends is still in the match.
Yeah, once one of your friends is still in the match, you just sit around and watch them. Basically, that's all you can
Yeah,
do.
I don't understand why they didn't have a losers bracket mode.
Yeah, just to keep some people busy while the other guys are going on, or have a mode where like remaining players could interfere with the final round or something.
Anything to give them some interactivity would have been better than what they got.
Yeah. Fall Guys also had another big problem, and that is called Among Us. They were at the peak of their flash in the pan, and then another flash in the pan happened, which doesn't happen often.
Their thunder got stolen something vicious right
Yes.
there.
Oh, you're playing with beans? Here's more beans. So yeah, I think that's Fall Guys' biggest problem is their thunder got stolen. Like the gameplay is
that always
fine. It's
happens,
fun.
really.
So,
Yeah, and it's also fun to watch. Like I watched Ayame playing it, which was fun.
and adorable.
But,
It is
But
not
yeah.
fun to watch Hachima play it, just by the way.
I'll take your word for it.
It is so loud.
It's Hachima, of course it is.
But yeah, it's there's just it's sort of almost sad because there is really nothing wrong with it, and it looks like great fun.
And
I guess that
they took the
perhaps-
battle royale mode in a way that does not make me want to grind my face off.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a way that you could just broaden that game just barely enough that will make it really stick. Because I don't think that, given the extant formula as it currently exists, I don't think that there's a good way of I don't think that there's a way that you could ever produce enough content to keep people playing.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to keep up.
They're releasing
So-
4 seasons. I think it's 3 or 4 seasons. Every 3 months, anyway, they're releasing a new patch, a new season of content.
Yeah, I think that they would need to have like basically there would need to be more than one class of challenge. Like all of them are they've got all of the ones that currently exist, but I think that you would need to, in parallel, you would need to also have a smaller form type of thing that is more suited to playing with people you know.
Yeah, maybe.
So that you aren't always like, you know, a Mario Party style mode as well. So, you know, for people that will remain your friends for until the end of the round.
If
sort
you
of thing.
get well, they do actually. This last season, they introduced private servers or private groups now. So
But is their content suited for it? That's the thing.
no, not really. You need that
That's
large
the
number of
thing.
players in order to make the content actually last.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that they need to really have a that like you could simply put the losers bracket there. You could have smaller form because the losers bracket's always going to be smaller than the initial run, right? Because you're losing half the people, sort of something like that.
Depends on the
Um,
game, the round. Like some games will take out half the field, others will take out a third.
Yeah, so you're going to have smaller break off games that you could graft in there, and just you would want to attach a different type of reward system to that, so that people don't feel like their time is being wasted, so they don't feel like they're just waiting for their chance to play again. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
So yeah. So Hades won it, but yeah, Carrion, Fall Guys, Spelunky 2 it's Spelunky 1, but more of it. Nothing wrong
At
with
least
that.
at least Rogue Legacy 2 wasn't on there. I was gonna have some words.
Yeah. I liked Rogue Legacy fine, but did it really need a sequel?
That ain't why I'm mad at Rogue Legacy 2.
Oh.
It's full communist propaganda right out the gate.
Oh.
Oh, is that the one you showed me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it is, and it's legit propaganda.
That's worrying.
It's not tongue in cheek. It's not they aren't covering it up or anything. It's not subtle. It's just propaganda, straight up propaganda.
Huh.
They are trying to acclimate people to thinking in a certain way about politics specifically.
Why do this? Stop it. Stop.
Oh crap! Walked into the wall
Stop
trap.
over politicizing everything. Actually, let me go down to my Steam list here. Where is it? Rogue Legacy 2. Here it is.
Yeah, if you go into our video games board a few weeks ago, I post the very first talents in the talent tree, and they're like called Universal Health Step, or Universal Health Stare, and Universal Basic Ingress. And their comments are like, socialism just got worse, and then socialism just got worser.
Oh dear. Oh boy. Anywho, and they're actually claiming it as a true Metroidvania on their store page now. Oh, actually, here we go. On the store page, I'm going to read this out. Traits 2.0. Through the powers of socialism, we're bringing a universal healthcare system. So they're just using socialism as their model. Right.
Yeah, I'm mad at you, Serathus. I gave it a shot, but you baited me into a socialist troll.
Okay. Moving on, because we've still got a bunch of awards left to go. Best mobile game. I mean, most of them, who cares? Among Us won it. Genshin Impact is on there, and it shouldn't be.
Well,
Well, it is a mobile game, and it works just as well on mobile as it does on the PC, believe it or not.
True.
It's very strange. Like, as far as an accomplishment goes, it blows all of the others out of the water by a country mile. Like, because nobody has managed to make something so convincingly cross-platform before.
But no one has so convincingly undermined their own game with their monetization before either.
Yeah, but the thing is that these are all mobile games, so
yeah.
half the stuff here should be vulnerable to that. I'm not going to see anybody accusing the Pokemon Company of having, monetization policies that make sense. Generally speaking,
Generally, they're not.
Riot Games is all about microtransactions as well.
Got to keep
Call of Duty Mobile. Call of Duty Mobile is a Call of Duty game. It's Activision.
Enough said.
In fact, the only one that isn't monetized in a brutal and cynical fashion is Among Us.
Yes.
Which is a trivially simple game, which you can more or less do with pen and paper if you really want to.
Mm-hmm. All right. So that's that one really touched on. Moving on. Best community support. We have Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Fall Guys, Fortnite, No Man's Sky, and Valorant.
No Man's Sky needs to win this.
Fall Guys actually won this one.
Yeah, I'm not really sure why. Like, I didn't see much of their interaction with the community, other than most of the time they had to invest their efforts on telling the community, look, we will break the game if we make it any easier, so stop asking.
Yeah, they did that a fair bit. They had to stand their ground on that. But I think for community support, they've just been pushing out content for Fall Guys at a very rapid clip. Like, it's only been out for 6 months. They're on season 3 now.
Yeah, and the best argument against giving it to No Man's Sky, though, in my opinion, is simply that you can only give this award to them so many times.
Yeah.
And they deserved it the first time, but at some point you have to treat them like a normal developer.
And honestly, Fall Guys deserves something.
Yeah, people like it, and people have fun playing it. It does the job it's supposed to do, albeit in a very simple way. I mean, there's just not really much to complain about there.
I wouldn't have mind seeing this award go to Destiny 2 just for Bungie trying to wriggle out from under the Activision umbrella.
Trying is not good enough.
No, they didn't go far enough.
Yeah. When they make it successful, provided they haven't blown too many second chances, when they make it successful, then they can have their award.
Yes.
But they need to show that they're really the people to do this, that Activision really was to blame for their failure in the past.
Yeah.
And they
so
have
far
not
they have not
managed to
proved
show
that yet. I mean, as for the others, Valorant. Does anyone actually play Valorant?
Nobody plays Valorant.
Does anyone play Apex Legends?
Yes. Lots and lots of people play Apex Legends. Apex Legends isn't played at the level that that the people who make Apex Legends would like people to play Apex Legends, because Fortnite continues to exist. But not everybody wants to play Fortnite. Some people like having some hero shooter in their battle royale, but nobody plays Valorant because Valorant was an artificial structure, and people smell that sort of thing. They don't like it. That was the one that a huge amount of time and effort went into having, quote, influencers, unquote, shell for it.
Yep.
But they oversold themselves on that, and people smelt the bullshit, basically.
Yep.
That, they were a little bit too obvious that actually the reason why our favorite streamers are talking about this is because there's payola in it for them. It was too obvious. It was way too obvious. If you want to do one of these things, it needs to look like a guerrilla campaign.
All right, so that's that. We've already talked about the rest of that very much. Next category, I don't actually have a slide for, but we'll quickly touch on it because the answer is obviously, well, duh. Best VR/AR game: Half-Life Alyx, Dreams, Iron Man VR, for reasons, Star Wars Squadrons, and Walking Dead: Saints and Sinners. Alyx won it because duh.
Yeah, it's not even close.
Obviously,
not even close.
Like, who else is supposed to win it? Those other ones are there to fill out the category.
Yeah, without
does Dreams even have a VR/AR component to it?
Yeah, it does. It has VR.
Okay,
but it's not a VR game.
It's not. Really
it's not a VR game. So, of those games, I'll give a note to Walking Dead: Saints and Sinners because it actually is a fairly fun and functional game.
Likewise to Star Wars Squadrons.
Yeah, but it's not even anywhere close to in the same league as whatchamacallit, as Half-Life Alyx.
So it's still touching toy tier at one side.
Yeah, it just if they flesh the gameplay mechanics out to get them a little more video gamey and relied a little less on the gimmicks, they'd probably have it, but they just didn't quite make it with Saints and Sinners.
Honestly, it loses points because zombies as well.
Yeah, it is. Nobody is interested in Walking Dead anymore. Walking Dead is like last decade.
Good grief, don't remind me of that.
No, it isn't. I don't believe you. You're lying to me.
Ugh.
Well, I've never followed it, so I could be wrong.
All right. Here, next up is another award I didn't have a slide for because, again, meh. It's actually a new award, which is Innovation and Accessibility.
So, what, we got controllers you can use with your teeth?
It's basically people who need special requirements to play games because of, disability or whatever.
I'm not convinced that the category wasn't created just to give Last of Us 2 another award.
I think it was, honestly, because they got another award for that. I don't see, honestly, how. But
they got an award for colorblind mode. Colorblind
mode. Every game has colorblind mode.
Why
did they give it to Grounded for their floating sphere spiders?
I think it is not wrong for this category to exist. However, I think that the reason it exists this year, the reason it was created this year, was to shill for Last of Us again.
Yeah. I'd like to see this actually going to someone who's making a genuine technological step.
Like,
So
I think
getting
that
more
this should
people
go
in the
to
game.
peripheral developers, not game developers.
Yeah.
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 Like, and which one of these award shows do like, you know, the supporting industries that make all the peripherals used to play video games ever get any recognition? So at least give them one category. Come on, you
Yeah,
can
I'd
do it.
love to see them actually give an award to someone who can genuinely make a technological improvement to the industry.
Yeah. Or they could just have that guy that, you know, perfected Sekiro with his tongue because he's disabled from the neck down.
That
Well, I
guy
mean, they
is
can
a
have him give
genuine
the award
madman.
out. They can give him his 15 minutes of fame. He can give the award out, but at least give it to people who actually did something useful and interesting. Don't give it to Last of Us 2 because they have a tranny in the game.
Well, they
Yeah.
didn't in this case because they had colorblind mode. Come to think of it, Assassin's Creed Valhalla also colorblind mode, I believe. Grounded
yeah.
did the floating spherical spiders. Hyperdot doesn't even have a link in Wikipedia, by the way. I don't know what
What
they
was
did.
that? What was that game that had arachnophobia mode in it?
Yeah, that was Grounded.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, where you turn.
But you see, that seems like such a trivial thing. Not to mention something that already exists in other games. It's such a trivial thing that's one of the things that made me feel like they were just filling out the category in order to
Yeah.
give an award to Last of Us, because that's not really that remarkable. It's funny, but it's not
funny.
deserving of a category.
Yeah, for people who it's a genuine issue for, it's cool. It's nice it's there. But again, it's not really worth an award. Like someone coming up for for example, just to pull it out of there, a controller that someone can play with one hand because their other hand doesn't work. That would be worthy of an award.
Yeah, if you could come up with a really elegant way of doing that at a mass manufacture scale, I mean, that would be good from the position of recognizing that contribution to the fandom, and in addition would get that particular project attention, which might be able to get them manufacturing on a larger scale or something.
Yeah.
Like there are good reasons for the category to exist. To give Last of Us 2 another award is not one of them.
Exactly.
They do not deserve another award. I'm sorry.
Yep.
They don't deserve any awards.
They really don't. So, moving on. Now we're into the granular categories. So, starting off, best action game. We have Doom Eternal, Hades.
What's action game mean?
The game with action.
Things happen in this game.
You know, there is action and there is action adventure. And they
Yeah,
do this every year, though.
Best action game is $5 and it's DLC for Devil May Cry 5. Just by the way.
Where was I? Doom Eternal, Hades, Half-Life Alyx, Neo 2, and Streets of Rage 4. Hades got it.
Okay.
This gameplay is really tight, but I don't really feel like it's appropriate for this category somehow. I don't really know how to express it.
Yeah, it's when because game genres are so corrupted. When I think of action game, I think of what's on my screen right now with Devil May Cry.
It's all hacky slashy, flippity floppy fun.
The classic, what does Yahtzee call it? Spectacle fighter?
Yeah. I think of something like that, or something that is inspired by those things, or a derivative of that
Well, not
thing.
right- I won't say what you're doing right now, because what you're doing right now is platforming.
Well, what I'm doing right now is trying to get through the level.
Okay, so does Banjo-Kazooie count as an action game or not?
If there is no category called adventure or action, or adventure or something adventure.
Yeah.
Okay, what about God of War?
God of War.
God of War,
action game.
Yeah, it depends on what the focus of the game is. Like the focus of a game like God of War, like Devil May Cry, is the action.
Yeah,
They're-
if the
Okay, what
central
about
focus
Medieval?
is the combat, I guess, or whatever the combat equivalent is.
What about Medieval?
Medieval. Oh. Let's just use the cop-out category, action adventure.
Really? But
That's what everyone does.
I'm so disappointed in you, Fern.
I know, right? Medieval is
At
just
least he didn't
medieval.
call it Metroidvania.
No, it's not Metroidvania. Although it does have elements from it. See, that's the problem with genres or game categories like this is they get destroyed frequently.
They're never going to be clean. That's not really possible. However, there's also no need to unnecessarily give sprawl to things just to get attention, which is what's typically happening.
Yeah. So, yeah. Because we can't agree on exactly what a best action game is, it's hard to decide what of these is the best.
Yeah, I guess I don't have a real good reason for thinking Hades can't be there. I think it's the fact that it's isometric, but that doesn't make any sense because I know I played some in the past.
No, and Streets of Rage is a side-scroller.
Yeah, and I would call Streets of Rage an action game because Streets of Rage, at least if going by the other ones, I haven't played the latest one. All you do is action in that game.
Although in previous years they've called that a fighter. It's not. It's I believe the actual genre name is a brawler.
Nut.
What about Muso games then?
Muso would fall under action, I think.
Yeah, they'd be an action
Are
game.
they? Would you call them a brawler?
No, I honestly would call them a Muso game.
I think brawlers and Muso are subgenres of action.
Yeah, they are, I'd say. So,
But it doesn't matter because we got it wrong because Virgil is clearly the best video game of the year for action.
Virgil is the best waifu. I mean, Neo is it's an action game. It's also a bullet hell.
Neo? You mean
Neo.
Nier?
No, Nier. Sorry, Neo is not.
Neo is an action game from FromSoft.
Yes,
that is very much so an action game.
we need more
don't
game
think-
names because we're starting to run out.
Yeah. So yeah, it's further muddled by the fact that there's subgenres, and subgenres are not clearly defined, and what is and is not, and the fact that people keep using game names as subgenre names for games that they're nothing like.
Stop it, roguelike.
Metroidvania.
So something becomes Souls-like by having a stamina bar.
By being
I'm not-
slightly difficult.
So Genshin Impact is a Souls-like because it has a stamina bar.
Oh, I've seen it called the Dark Souls of mobile games.
What? Well, I mean, I
Why?
hear that the last boss is pretty difficult in the current content.
Okay, so yeah, it is like Dark Souls then.
Yeah.
I feel dumb with this.
Although if you're good with Geo Traveler, you can basically no sell everything that he does, but you've got to practice quite a bit before you get there.
Nice. All right, so best action game, yeah. Well, Hades, I guess. Action
I guess so.
adventure.
It feels wrong somehow. Like I don't know if it's just because I spend so much time spamming the same attack over and over again. If I'm using a melee weapon, but I mainly use the bow, like I do in most games,
All right.
and it doesn't feel at all like an action game when you do that.
No, it doesn't.
So
I mean, Doom Eternal. We can knock off, I think, because Doom Eternal, is it good? Yes. Is it better than Doom 2016?
No,
No.
and the chainsaw pinata thing is weird.
Yeah.
It just feels weird to me. That's sort of the reason I haven't been motivated to play it at all. Is because that whole concept just weirds me out.
yeah, it's really an awkward take. I'm in a way I'm kind of glad they tried something a little bit different, but I don't think it worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, and the thing about Hades is, I think Hades comes down mostly to your build more than playing the game. You're
Yeah,
not-
it feels more like almost feels like a puzzle game to me. Like what I'm thinking about is not like when it comes to action games, like classically action games, I think about the major mechanism for your progress is the acquisition of skill, but that's only sort of corollary, like the mechanical skill to effectively use the weapons in Hades. That does accumulate over time, it's true, but you're going to screw yourself badly if you don't make good strategic decisions well in advance.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's not like sitting there and playing the game enough to get good enough to land the perfect judgment nut end.
And
It's,
everything is a zero sum game as well.
Yeah.
Like you're always giving something up in order to get something.
and
so-
yeah,
That strategy hangs far more heavily over that game than it does any of the other entries in this category.
All right. Trying to keep this moving. Best action adventure game. We have
So and now we're back where we started.
yeah. We have Assassin's Creed Valhalla. We have Ghost of Tsushima. We have Spider-Man Miles Morales. We have Jedi Fallen Order, and which of course won.
What one?
The game that was not really adventurous and didn't really have a lot of action except for crawling around in your belly and then hitting things with golf clubs.
Yeah.
Like,
Of these
doesn't-
games,
deserve it.
no,
Crying out loud.
it doesn't. There are plentiful better games than that one here, and they're all on this list. Well, some of them are on this list. Spider-Man, I mean, it's great. The first game was great. Miles Morales is more of an expansion pack than an actual standalone.
Yeah, I thought
release,
it
though.
was an expansion pack. I was
It's a-
surprised to see it.
It's a standalone expansion.
Well, so it's like Far Cry Blood Dragon.
Kind of thing, yeah. So, I mean, it's good, and they get rid of the let's be boring people faffing around and hiding from guys with guns mechanic.
Oh, so you don't have to play as Mary Jane.
No, you don't. At least Miles, when he played as him, he got to hack something every now and again.
Yeah, his stealth sections were merely bad instead of abysmal.
Yeah, Mary Jane, what did she have? A rock.
Well, sometimes I think she had like soup cans you could grab around the arena or something.
Oh, yeah, sometimes it was a soup can. Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Now, I watched the trailer for Assassin's Creed Valhalla when it first announced, and I was getting really intrigued by it. So the Vikings, going into the detail of the Vikings and how they actually work.
I'm surprised they can do that to you still. That you still haven't learned your lesson after this long.
No, well, it was that. The way the original trailer was, it's Vikings. Here are Vikings being Vikings. Here's Vikings being awesome. And
here's Vikings
then,
being homosexual for woke points.
well, no, there was no indication up until that point. And then the
Except for
Wristblade
the
came
fact
up.
that it's a game in current year.
Aside from that, yeah. So, yeah, it was all fine until the Wristblade was shown. And then I just went, oh, no.
No, you should have learned your lesson long ago. Assassin's Creed is a dead franchise.
Well, I didn't
The
know
only
it was
thing they can
Assassin's
do
Creed when I was first
is
watching that
churn-
trailer.
Churn out the same game over and over and over. That's all they're capable of. It should speak for itself that people were talking about Assassin's Creed and Assassin's Creed 2 long after they came out. Everybody
are.
has forgotten about Assassin's Creed Viking time.
Yeah. So that was the thing with the trailer. It was fantastic until the moment where it was revealed it was an Assassin's Creed game.
Because people are sick of it.
Yeah.
They're sick of the same old thing over and over again.
Why couldn't we just have a game about Vikings? That
Well,
would
they
have been
made
great.
that one back in the 360 era. It wasn't that great.
Eh,
It wasn't bad. It was just a
Not bad.
bit middling. It was a strong a strong 6 out of 10 sort of game.
as for the other ones, Jedi Fallen Order was better than it had any right to be.
It was a surprising game. I finally went back and finished it,
Mm-hmm.
and forgot that I went back and finished it, which probably doesn't speak well of the game.
Well, the
But,
story doesn't mean anything, really.
Well, it's Bloodborne with a Star Wars skin, isn't it?
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
pretty much. Pretty much. Bloodborne with worse
The
blocking.
Bloodborne was great,
Yeah.
and people love Star Wars.
It has friendly
So it's a
little
match
robot.
made in heaven, really.
Yep. So, yeah, I think everything about Star Wars Fallen Order was actually way better than it was supposed to be, so I can't judge it very easily. And that includes the story, actually.
Oh, if you're going to put it against Last of Us 2, I mean...
That's not a hard sell.
That's not a hard sell, no.
So, out of Ghost of Tsushima and Jedi Fallen Order, which one would you pick?
So I would probably... it's a hard call, because I think my surprise is selling me more on Fallen Order than the actual quality of the game, and that I just expected that game to be dog crap.
Well, it's got EA right there on the icon logo. It's an EA game, and that immediately brings with it a lot of baggage.
I'm sure the sequel will be trash.
Almost certainly. So nobody expected Jedi Fallen Order to actually be good, and it was.
Judgment. Ah,
Damn it. So You know what? I'm going to give it to Jedi Fallen Order just because EA should be praised when they do something right.
And it hardly appeared
It
in
hardly
the
appeared.
categories, despite the fact that it's from all accounts, it was a very solid game that people enjoyed when it came out and played quite a bit.
Mhm.
It barely appears, and I think that that's first half of the year syndrome.
I think it is first half of the year syndrome, yes. Because it came out in February?
I
It
don't
was
remember.
it was earlier in the year.
Yeah,
It-
January, February, something like that.
Yeah, it was either early or mid-year.
Do I have to look it up? Hang on. Boop. Was released in... Oh, hang on a minute. It was actually released November last year.
Wait, then why is it on the list?
Because it released
How do
on
they-
Stadia in November this year.
So is this like the Stadia specific version they're talking about then?
In which case, it shouldn't even be on the list.
Yeah, since nobody played it.
So this is kind of cheating, admittedly. No wonder it fell a bit off because, yeah, it released November last year, just outside the awards window.
Did they have the awards like earlier last year or something?
Maybe? Like, there was stuff that they actually...
Because I don't remember it getting any awards last year.
No, it didn't, did it?
No, I think their cutoff date is like different every year.
It's
And
different
arbitrary.
depending on how much money they give you.
Yeah.
Because there's been years before where there's been something that's released in November or even in December and it's still sweeps the awards.
It puts me in mind of Sargon's current catchphrase: 1 stack or 2 stacks.
All right, where were we? Best action adventure, the genericest of the categories.
We don't know what to put these games in, and we need to give the award to another game.
Yes, we need to give it another award. Best role-playing game or best RPG.
This was pretty much a given.
Also, I couldn't help it for Genshin Impact. I'm sorry. You have an emergency food gif instead of the actual box art.
You should have used one of the Paimon ones I have in the video game thread.
I think I may have used one of those. I'm not sure. I didn't look at those ones. Anyway, we have Final Fantasy VII. We have the emergency food. We have Persona 5 Royale. We have Wasteland 3, and we have Yakuza Like a Dragon. Wait a minute. When did Yakuza Like a Dragon release?
This year.
Quite recently.
Very,
not
very
very old.
recently.
Judging
Yeah,
by the cost.
November 2020. November 10th, specifically.
I haven't heard anybody talking much about whether how good it is or not. I've heard sort of vaguely positive things about it, but not the sort of rhapsodizing that we had before. I think people are trying to get over the change of protagonist still.
Yeah.
This is the
I
second
think-
change of protagonist, isn't it?
No, it's the first one for the main series. Majima was always a secondary character.
Not Majima. There was another guy, which I think may have only come out in Japan, but nobody liked him.
It was a spin-off, I think. And the series has multiple protagonists from 4 onwards, so
Yeah.
you might have seen one of the other ones.
All right. Final Fantasy VII is, of course, Final Fantasy VII. The winner was... Where was I? I've got to find my spot. Oh, yeah, Final Fantasy VII.
Well, I think that's just because the name is just too big. Like
It
that
is.
inertia, you can't get away from it. Even if they should, I don't know that they're able to do so.
Yeah. I'm not sure P5R should be here.
No, it shouldn't. I don't think that they made a game when they released P5R.
It's an update.
It was less of a revision, substantially. I would be reluctant to give it a separate entry to like PSP Persona 3. I would be reluctant, and I would set that as the minimum bar of changes required in order to get the opportunity to enter again.
Hmm. So it's not a new game. It is an old game that is still really good, but not really changed all that much.
I mean, yeah, there's about 15 hours of new content, but it's still mostly the old game.
Yeah. The fact that they didn't address any of the issues that I had with the old game narratively means that it's going to get negative points from me. I'm sorry.
Because they
I
didn't
do
fix
like-
those enormous moral questions.
Yeah, they just don't have.
Well, I think that they really need to just reimagine the whole core story, because
Yeah.
there are two core premises, and both of them are completely odious. Like the whole game is a broken Aesop.
It only
Mhm.
works if you have true cartoon characters as your bad guys.
Yeah,
Yeah, as
because
soon as-
there are two core tenets to that whole story. Core tenet number one is all rebellion is good for its own sake, and core tenet number two is the ends justify the means.
both of which are not really good
Like
messages.
this is how you end a society.
Yes. And it is okay to overwrite somebody's personality unwillingly if they are cartoonishly evil.
Is it though? I mean,
Well, that's what the game
thing.
says.
Yeah,
I mean-
it is.
We finally got a character that's whole shtick is, nah, that's dumb, people. But she's not enough to save it and fix the fact that there's still a whole giant video game that's telling you that.
Yeah. On the other end of things, we got a character whose whole shtick was, I'm doing it because I can do it. But they didn't really go anywhere. Didn't really go anywhere with that thread of story from Pancakes either.
Yeah, the whole story is clumsy and flails about a lot. Like doing it for the memes would be more convincing.
Yeah. So it's still a great game, and it's stylish as all get out, as long as you don't think about what's actually going on in the plot.
Yeah, like the simple caliber of the writing is just so far below the previous entries. Like I think that in terms of themes, probably the strongest one was 4, and in terms of sort of like mood and execution and presentation, I think the third one was marginally ahead of the fourth.
Mm.
But the fifth is just a joke in both categories by comparison.
Yeah, the fifth does style and mechanics, but it does not do story.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah, the thing is,
I don't really have much to say about it because I've already talked about it to death.
Yeah, and the issue is that it's been granted the position of being able to present itself as a new game again.
Yeah.
And still failed. The thing is, I was really, really happy with Persona 5 until the Vol pointed out the actual holes in the plot, because the style and all the flashiness really distracted from it.
Yeah, because they've got such a strong visual game.
Yeah. And the characters are actually mostly likable.
And the dungeons blow the previous equivalents out of the water. Like so many things about that game are incredible.
Except for the ship.
That the core story and the themes behind. Well, except the ship's just too long. That's the main problem with the ship.
Yeah.
If the ship was 1.5 dungeons instead of 2 dungeons, that would be no problem.
Yeah.
But the themes and the story have always been so important to Shin Megami Tensei that to just dump them for a after school cartoon level narrative is really shameful.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, enjoy it, but switch your brain off. Don't think too hard. Unless, of course, there's some sort of follow-up they're going to do later on, which actually hits them in the face with all this stuff.
Well, we'll see what they do with Strikers, but I don't
expect that to do it.
No, I don't either. I think that it's going to be an excuse plot at best.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Moving on is best fighting game, a category that was especially anemic this year.
I can't believe Mortal Kombat won an award.
Does it deserve an award?
No. That's Mortal Kombat Woke Edition, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I'm pretty
The
sure.
one which is about Jax founding Wakanda.
I mean,
Jax is. I'm not going to do it. Joke too easy.
he has metal arms. That's the joke. We'll go with that. So our nominees are Granblue Fantasy, Mortal Kombat 11, Street Fighter 5 Champion Edition. Why is that even here? Is it just to fill
Because
space?
there were no fighting games of note came out this year.
So it is literally there just to fill space.
Yeah.
You say that, but I feel like Granblue Fantasy is really hard done by. It's because the IP is popular in a completely different genre. So, but like it's gorgeous to look at. Like it's on the tier with the other great Arc System Works content. And I haven't heard anybody say anything particularly bad about the gameplay. They've tried a few new things. It didn't take off the way that they had hoped.
Yeah.
And I
other
think it's just because the investment required to fall in love with Granblue Fantasy requires you to have played the MOBA game.
It's quite a lot. The other games
Is
are
there an
One
English
Punch
version
Man.
of Granblue out?
What's that?
Say again?
Is there an English version of Granblue Fantasy out?
I'm like 90% sure that there is.
I
I'd have to
think
check
so,
on
yeah.
Steam.
The other games are One Punch Man, A Hero Nobody Knows, which I think is also there just to fill space.
Yeah, because I didn't even know it had come out.
I'm pretty sure it's just the Bandai fighting game again.
Yeah, this is the Bandai fighting game.
Yep. And Under Night in Birth, EXE, late, square bracket, CL-R, close bracket. Why?
So, you know, French Bread, we're never going to get you guys able to make another fighting game if you guys can't make a title that is not memorable, but just functional.
It's like a piece of waste code they had left laying around. Come on, French Bread, just make a title that actually makes sense and possibly means something.
I'll take being able to pronounce it phonetically.
That would be
I'll
a
accept.
step forward, yes.
Where you can actually discuss the game.
So our choices here are either Under Night or Granblue.
Granblue probably wins.
I think Granblue probably deserves some attention.
Yeah.
I feel really bad for them
Yeah,
because yeah.
Yeah, the problem is these two games, both of those are far and away superior to the other three items on this list. But they're anime fighters.
So who actually won?
Mortal Kombat.
Oh, right.
Does Sonic Fox play that?
Yeah,
Probably.
he is a Mortal Kombat dude, I think. I think it's like his main game.
Is it because there's no serious competition and when it comes to Mortal Kombat?
I have no idea. I do not follow the intricacies of Sonic Fox's career.
But he's part of the FGC, man.
Can we not?
The most toxic group of gamers in the world.
All right.
Yeah, I don't want to go to a Taco Bell and have a car driven on me.
Can we not?
Are we going to talk about those announcements?
Do we have to?
I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't.
Maybe
I think we
should.
mentioned it last week. I'm not sure.
I can't remember. Anyway, best family game. Animal Crossing New Horizon. Crash 4 because I guess they couldn't figure out where else to put it. Fall Guys, Mario Kart Live Home Circuit, Minecraft Dungeons, again, because they didn't know where else to put it. And Paper Mario. Isn't Paper Mario an RPG?
I think it is.
Origami
the
King.
But it's a Mario game, so it gets sort of like it gets granted default entry into this category, no matter what its content is.
I guess. So Animal Crossing won it. But
If there was a game about Mario going into drug rehab, it would still end up in the family category.
Super Mario World, Luigi finally snaps. So, family games. Are any of these really actually family games?
Well, Fall Guys, as we've discussed, you can't keep playing with people who you want to play with.
The game actively stops you from doing that if you're tapped out.
It's mostly about playing with strangers. It's not about playing with your family.
Yeah. Animal Crossing is, well, it's Animal Crossing.
The thing with Animal Crossing is I have heard many cases of it becoming household phenomenon.
Yes.
Where everybody gets it, and then they all are, trying to get things from each other.
It's very approachable to. We might get in trouble for me saying this. To normie women, normie women love Animal Crossing.
It's true. There's no way of getting around it.
There's probably just a better way to put that, but all right.
Yeah, I'm sure that there is. I'm sure that there you could come up with something a bit more politic, maybe, but it's not. It won't change the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is that it is a game that is so simple that literally anybody can play it.
I mean, Nintendo's found their demographic with Animal Crossing, and they're sticking to it. So, props to them, I guess.
It's got a massive amount of scope for just being sort of generally creative with what you can accomplish with it, including you can do, political propaganda, apparently, if you don't mind getting banned.
If you feel like getting banned.
But yeah, it's the one on this list which is definitively approachable for everybody in the family, and you can all play it together. Because Minecraft Dungeons is a Minecraft game, so
No, it's not.
the kids. Well, it's got Minecraft in the name.
It's a shitty top-down action game with Minecraft as a very, very freshly peeled hat.
Yeah, I remember seeing it as at the E3, one of the E3 presentations.
The
It's
only
got
thing-
Minecraft in the name.
Yeah,
That's the only thing you need to be a Minecraft game, is to have Minecraft in the name. Because
that's the only
bulk
thing it's got about Minecraft in it is
the bulk-
aesthetics.
audience for Minecraft is children.
Yes.
It's children. It's not us, and it's not people who are capable of coherent thought.
Not
It
people
is
who've been playing
children.
Minecraft for years.
Children will eat up things with the name of the thing that they like on it. Everybody knows this.
Because
Children
are dumb.
children are with whatever the property of the week is, with, like the way I am with any kind of fate thing. Like, they will just consume. They will see it, they'll hear that name, they'll consume. This is how they sell toys to children. It's
Speaking
because
of,
you just put the name of the thing on it.
Yeah.
Now, so that one's just, it's a name. Now, if you look at the others on the list, Mario Kart Home Circuit, there is not a single person on this earth who has children who can afford to buy that product.
it is literally a toy, by the way.
Yeah, it's literally a toy, but it's also priced like it's plated in gold.
How much is it? Let me actually go to the local extortionate bigots website. They're not Electronics Boutique anymore and haven't been for years, so trying to find a more appropriate name for EB. Let's see. Mario Kart Live Circuit. You can buy it in Mario or Luigi. It is $150 in Australia.
So what was this game again? I forget.
This is the one where you buy either a Mario or Luigi kart toy, which syncs up to your Switch, and essentially you can build your own tracks in your living room and drive these karts around it.
Right.
You can't play with your family unless you buy enough of them, though. So it's not $150.
You can annoy your family.
I mean,
It's true.
I
But
guess,
game
to play
It's
devil's
just-
advocate, I guess they're thinking like, oh, well, maybe their dads can sit down with them and help them build the car track, like back when we had the actual ones that didn't have a video game associated with it.
If you
And we had
had
to build-
really little kids,
Yeah, if they want to be sleeping on the couch,
yeah.
because they're going to overturn the house attempting to do it.
But because of these, like the market that these would actually appeal to are the sort of kids or the age of kids who break something immediately when they touch it.
Yeah, and this is something that its natural position is to be on the floor in everybody's way.
Yes. I can actually see someone's dog grabbing one and running off with it.
Oh no.
So, I mean, it's a neat idea. I think it's probably not the best idea, but it's, I mean, points for creativity.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly an interesting idea, and it's a creative idea, and I can understand the appeal, but it's one of those things that looks like it's way better in theory than it is in practice. And I stick by my position that for it to be a game, you would need to spend a ridiculous amount of money, like the price of a console.
Well, it's $150 for one of them. If you actually want to play
you
it
can't-
multiplayer, you need two
You
of
can't
them.
race with one person.
You cannot race with one person. So you need at least two. That
Yeah,
makes it
so
$300.
Hideously expensive.
Mhm.
Other games on this: Crash 4, not a family game unless you hate your family.
Yeah, that's just a
Yeah,
generic.
I feel like it's got cartoony graphics that makes it a family game, right? That's how it
Yeah.
works.
It's
Yeah.
just a generic platformer.
It's
Like-
a Crash game.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
yeah.
I don't remember my family hanging over my shoulder while I was playing Crash Bandicoot on the original PlayStation.
all right, we're nearing the end of the list. We've only got maybe 3 more categories to go. Best sim/strategy game. We have Crusader Kings 3, we have Desperados, we have Gears Tactics, Microsoft Flight Simulator, and XCOM Chimera Squad, which apparently came out this year. Did
I
it?
didn't know they were in an XCOM game that came out this year.
Yeah, apparently it did in April. I thought it's been out longer than that. The winner
Why is
was.
Strategy the same category? Just by the way,
Pardon?
why is Sim and Strategy the same category? By the way,
I don't know. Because they are entirely different things. So the winner was Microsoft Flight Simulator because apparently somebody likes vanilla ice cream, I guess.
Well, it's not like you can get on a plane in most places these days.
That's true. So if you want to see the world from above, that's your best option.
From all accounts, Crusader Kings 3 is an absolute magnum opus.
Yes.
Like, which is something that I can't say for any of the other games on this list.
I mean, Microsoft Flight Simulator is fantastic for what it does, but it's a flight simulator. Gears Tactics, nobody has actually talked about Gears Tactics at all.
It's because it's an unremarkable game nobody cares about.
Exactly. Or Desperados, or really Chimera Squad. So Crusader Kings wins it for us, I guess.
Yeah, because that's the one that everybody I saw talk about it was absolutely thrilled with what the developers had accomplished. Absolutely thrilled. Which is not something that you can say for very many games.
It's the sort of game I'd like to pick up Crusader Kings, but it's like standing at the edge of a cliff. It's just sprawls out before you.
There is a deep abyss immediately underneath there.
But yeah, what you can see is phenomenal, but if you want to get there, you're going to have to jump.
Are gonna have to jump.
Oh no, there's an old meme. All right. Next category, sports and racing. Who wants wallpaper paste? We have Dirt 5, F1 2020, FIFA 21, NBA 2K, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 re-release. Tony Hawk won it because it's the only one there that's actually a game.
Yeah, I've also heard that it's just an absolute class act of a reimagining of the old games.
I mean,
those games were so spectacularly popular when I just started high school.
They were fantastic at the day.
People didn't even care if they liked skating or not. It was everybody
stupid
liked
fun.
those games. Even if my objective was usually to try and do things that would be lethal to the character.
I mean, that was a game mode, wasn't it?
I don't know.
I
only played 1 or 2 of the early ones.
Yeah, I think it was in the second one where there was a game mode which was all about racking up damage to your character. I think that was 2.
Yeah. I just remember all the characters you could unlock in the second one.
Oh, there was loads. And some of them were rather silly.
That's
It's... Yeah.
Oh, man. I remember in Tony Hawk. Now, it's coming back over time. I had to think about it.
Yeah.
Tony Hawk is a game that only came into my life because of Spyro the Dragon, because they copied the Tony Hawk minigame, or Tony Hawk game, as a minigame in Spyro. And me and my friends would play Spyro all the time. And we got somebody come over one time and was like, there's a video game that exists that's just this, right?
Go on.
So we went and bought Tony Hawk.
NBA 2K, wasn't that the one that was riddled with bugs?
All of those sports games have been riddled with bugs for the last few generations. It's sort of hard to tell when it's to a particularly exceptional degree.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this is 2K21, I should say. Let me see. Release, blah, 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 blah. Rubbish, ribbit. Yeah. The overall Metacritic response for NBA 20 whatever was just resounding meh from both critics and players. One reviewer even saying that we have reached peak and the series is now stagnating.
Well, there's only really so much room in that.
There's only so much you can do with basketball, yeah.
Yeah.
Although apparently there's some big tie-in game being developed for the new Space Jam. So, I mean, you can do something with that.
It'll be an atrocity.
Oh, almost certainly. The Looney Tunes games, with a bunch of very minor exceptions, have been pretty much awful.
Well, I mean, they're still sort of almost touching the whatchamacallit, the ET era, where everything was about putting a character into a 1-unit standard video game.
Yeah. There have been exceptions, though, with Looney Tunes games where there was a handful which were actually good.
Probably on accident.
I only remember them being really hard.
Yes.
For the most part.
Next.
But you also played them when you were a kid, so were they really, really hard?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you go back and play them now, I think you'll breeze through them once you figure out the mechanics.
Well, either that or you'll find out, no, they actually were even harder than I perceived that they were.
Final
Possibly
category.
because they were-
Final award that we're actually going to talk about in depth is Best Multiplayer. We have Animal Crossing, we have Among Us, Call of Duty Warzone, Fall Guys, and Valorant. The winner.
I would like to say that for a certain definition of multiplayer, there is no multiplayer in Among Us.
I mean, yes and no for a definition.
The only thing that you ever do is watch other people. Ultimately, you don't unless you are the one who actually kills somebody else or gets killed by somebody else. There is no interaction.
No.
Everything takes place outside the game context.
I mean, yes and no. You do spend a lot of time arguing.
Yeah, but that's not the game that's doing that. The game isn't doing that. The game is barely facilitating that. In fact, especially if you're using Discord, the game is just giving you a venue to crucify somebody.
The game sets up the argument and then sets back and watches you tear each other apart, is what it does.
What I'm trying to say here is that when viewed as a multiplayer game, Among Us is just a place for multiplayer to take place. It does not contain any multiplayer mechanics per se.
All right. Well, it was the one that won, and I'm still going to for these games. What I actually got the most fun out of was Among Us. But the other options were Animal Crossing is Animal Crossing. There is no interaction really between players in Animal Crossing.
I think it's just trading. Like you look for somebody who's got a good price on turnips or something.
Something like that. Yeah, there's very minimal multiplayer, and you can actually invade each other's worlds as well. But
Is that the same sort of invade that you're talking about in FromSoft games?
Sadly, no.
Yeah, I'm thinking Giant Dad and Animal Crossing
I would
here.
love to see someone just phase into a game and cram a halberd up TK Slider's backside, but that doesn't happen. Actually, no, TK Slider's cool. Tom Nook. Tom Nook definitely deserves it.
I don't know what a Tom Nook is either.
Tom Nook is the raccoon mafia boss.
He's the one that owns that.
He owns you. He always owns you. He is the local debt shark. TK Slider is just a little dog who sits around and plays the guitar.
What is your animus toward him then?
Because his songs are kind of meh, I guess. I was just reaching for an Animal Crossing character.
Just throw tomatoes. They don't actually advocate for the sodomy with a halberd.
Honestly, I only really can remember 3 Animal Crossing characters, which is Tom Nook, TK Slider, and Mr. Rossetti. And Mr. Rossetti, I don't think, has actually been in the series for the last few entries. Since, autosave is now a thing.
I suppose.
Oh, right. He was the dude that would just show up until you save your game, didn't he?
Not so much that. It's particularly with the GameCube games early on, is if you turned off the console without saving your game, he would come up on the screen when you turn it on again and berate you for a good 5 minutes about not saving your game and trying to cheat. And you could not skip it. You'd have to wait for him to finish berating you before you could play the game. It's the best.
Yep.
I mean, it says something when they put him into Smash Brothers and assist trophy, and that's exactly what he does. Is he berates you for playing Smash Brothers, and covers up half the screen with his text box. So best multiplayer, Among Us won it. Honestly, though, Fall Guys probably could deserve it too. Though there's really no communication or anything like that in Fall Guys.
But you are like directly interacting with others.
You're bumping into each other.
I think that the argument against the interactivity of Among Us is much stronger. Like because in Fall Guys you're often like actively trying to steal something from someone else, or you're trying to hold someone back, or trying to knock them off the edge of something. Like there's a lot of cooperation, like the ball rolling stuff and that sort of thing.
Cooperation is not the word I would use for that.
Well, ostensibly it's supposed to be cooperation.
Failing forward, I think, was probably better. Yes. But yeah.
Well, isn't that how humanity progresses in this world?
Just failing upwards.
Well, failing in some direction.
Yes.
Results may vary.
As for the others, like, it's a Call of Duty game, nobody cares. Valorant, nobody plays Valorant.
No, nobody plays Valorant. That was an unbelievable damp squib on the part of, was it Riot?
Yes.
Yeah, they just I don't know what they're doing. My
What
goodness.
are you doing? They've got League of Legends that people apparently still play, and half a dozen other little bits and pieces. Like they've got these.
The bunch of
RPG
League of Legends other things, and that one that was announced at the Game Awards,
the roleplay game one, yeah.
which I don't think I've ever seen an RPG that looked less inspiring than that.
Yeah.
And I feel like they just jammed the Kumiho in there to bait the weeps
Yes.
because she doesn't seem to be the setting at all.
What was her name? Ari. Just to confuse people.
Yeah, not me. I'm not in the next League of Legends game.
Unless you're a massive weeb.
Well, I am.
You're practically a stakeholder.
I
Don't
should
get
be a
that money
stake.
back.
I'm reminded of that Todd Howard song now, thanks.
Yeah, it just works. It just works. Alright, so that is the awards. There are a whole bunch of really embarrassing announcements, but we'll talk about those after the break.
All right.
So
So
let us...
here's some music, folks, I guess. You got anything else before we send us off?
Nope, do it.
All right. Music, folks. Have fun. We'll be right back. And we're back.
Yep, and we're just going to sit here and appreciate Ari getting his butt kicked by Dante for a little bit.
Yep. So,
Dante. Yeah, he's got your number.
probably. I don't know any of his attacks yet. He's a brand new boss.
But one you've played as the entire time. Dude, look at that. Alright, so anyway. A whole bunch of stuff got announced at the Game Awards. Most of which look pretty awful. Where shall we begin? Incidentally, actually, it's worth noting with those awards, games that have received multiple nominations, and I'm just going to go with the top 5. Doom Eternal got 5, Final Fantasy VII got 6, Ghost of Tsushima got 8, Hades got 9, and The Unpleasantness got 11.
Yeah. You don't give a game 11 awards at
No.
an award show.
For
Yeah,
multiple awards, games that actually won multiple awards, Among Us, Final Fantasy VII, Ghost of Tsushima, and Hades all won 2, and The Unpleasantness won 7.
Yeah, they need to think about the message they're sending there. I mean, you're saying that it's actually 7 awards good. It's hard enough for people to swallow the idea that that game is good in any context, much less that it's 7 awards worth of good. It's just not credible.
It's
You're
not 7 awards worth
damaging
of
your
good.
credibility. Like what credibility you have, you're damaging.
Yeah, there is only very few games that would actually warrant that sort of attention, and they only come along maybe once a decade. So yeah, the other categories that we didn't really talk about are Best Debut Game, Content Creator of the Year, Most Anticipated Game, which was a joke because Halo Infinite's on it, and Player's Voice, which Ghost of Tsushima won. Handily.
But anticipating is the only thing you're ever going to be doing for Halo, so...
Yeah, I mean, we got Elden Ring, which, yeah, it's the next FromSoft game. Of course people are going to be anticipating that.
Well, I mean, I don't think that it was anticipating, because I think because they maintained radio silence almost all year, most people actually weren't anticipating it.
Which is
Yeah,
a
most people
change.
forgot about it. Even the Souls community.
Only people that actually know about that game existing are people who are very, very plugged in. Because the people who actually watch E3 and they pay attention to announcements and they are attending to the progress of games in development, the bulk of people might have heard of it once, if that, and then forgot about it because there was no news all year. So this is another one of those things. This is not about what people are actually anticipating. This is about the particular name remembered by the people who get to decide who these awards go to. Because I don't think this is reflective of the gaming population at all.
No.
I think the people forgot about this game when they said nothing about it.
Yeah. I just want to actually quickly check up on what this is. Okay. The other names on this list were God of Boy sequel, which was mentioned maybe briefly once. Halo Infinite, because I guess people are looking forward to potato aliens. Horizon Forbidden West, because, I don't know, do people actually want a sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn? Because that story ended up being completely circular and undermined itself. Seriously. Wait, Dante used the Vike. Seriously, that's cool.
Yeah, yes, that's actually really hard to figure out how to counter.
He's using everything. He hasn't used the hat yet, has he?
Isn't the hat a utility, not a weapon?
I mean, you could use it, I guess. I mean, it does do damage, but
I'd love to see him just style on you with the hat.
I thought it was for currency acquisition.
it is. But you can also expend redonkulous. He just royal guarded me.
Yes, he did. And he did it to death.
But that's what you like about Dante.
I
He
know,
has to style you. Blup.
but anyway,
Yeah, anyway.
Okay.
Horizon Forbidden West, Resident Evil 8, or Resident Evil Village, depending on which way you want to call it. And Breath of the Wild sequel, which I don't think has actually been announced yet. Like, we just had the Musou Breath of the Wild game come out. So, yeah. Anywho. Let's just go down to what was actually announced. And, oh boy. Could we not have some of these terrible gameplay trailers? Alright, I've got them in a list here. Which is just how the slides have turned up. Callisto Protocol is the first one then on the list. This is the horror game that's set on a space station, and they said that they want to make the scariest game possible. From what I can tell, their definition of scariest game possible is Dead Space 3.
But Dead Space 3 is the bad one, isn't it?
Yes.
Like the really bad one.
Yes.
yeah, that's the one that like all the YouTubers got to show for.
And it was awful. So, yeah, I'm not sure what they're going with on that. The trailer really didn't say too much other than, it's supposed to be a survival horror game, and it's set on a space station, and it looks for all the world like Dead Space 3. So, yeah, that exists. Alright, next game on the list I've got is... I have no idea how to pronounce this. Chia? Chia?
I do not know.
It's
Yeah.
Is that one about... Is that one about that girl that possesses things or whatever it is?
Yeah, little Polynesian girl who runs around an island having adventures and possessing random things, yes. Including, for some strange reason, a coconut.
That game, like, it's like, oh, well, this looks sort of as an interesting art style, I guess, but I've noticed that you don't actually appear to do anything.
Yeah.
That was my overwhelming impression, is that the game doesn't actually have a point that was visible.
Like, if it's set on, based on mythology or something like that, that'd be rather cool from a story point of view, but the trailer just didn't really show much point to the game other than possessing things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if they're going to tell a story about Polynesian mythology, bring it on. I'd love that. That's really cool.
I would very much not like it.
Hey,
You didn't go through primary school being barraged with it constantly.
that's fair. That is definitely fair. Alright, so, I mean, it's a cool looking game. It's a very pretty looking game. But yeah, we don't know much about it. A game we do know much about, because it's depressingly simple, is Shady Part of Me. Honestly, I
That's
think
the
we've
Shadow
seen this
game,
game. Yeah, it's the one about a little girl in a gloomy world who solves puzzles with the help of her shadow. Honestly, it feels like we've seen this game before.
It's been done a lot of times before. A lot of times before.
Yeah.
It's probably just another attempt to make like one Metroidvania mechanic into an entire game or something like that.
Yeah. And you watch, it'll probably turn out that the game is about depression, because they're all about depression.
Yeah, for some reason.
Just stop. It's not unique and it's not new. Stop it.
Yeah,
Well, it's
you
not
aren't doing something brave. You're just making a game that will make a depressed person feel even more depressed.
You're treading well-treaded ground, is what you're doing. Alright. Next, we have Season. About the kid with the thick glasses roaming around on the bike recording things. I mean, It's pretty, but I have no idea what the game is. The whole premise that they've put forward is that you've only got one season to run around and record cultures. Whatever that means.
Huh?
Yeah. You have to preserve cultures or record cultures that are supposed to be disappearing. Cultures as in human cultures, not as in bacteria. So,
Huh?
yeah, I don't know what this game is actually about.
Yeah, this was a running theme, and why I'm not commenting very much.
Yeah,
I don't know what most of these games are about.
it's
Like-
these trailers never actually show really what the game is actually about. They might say something, but what they say is usually pretty vague.
Did you know depression exists?
Ugh. That's seriously got to be probably the most overused plot device in a game.
Do people not make games to be fun anymore?
No,
Is that not a thing?
no.
I'm playing the last fun game that was ever made.
Yes, they make games either to make you sad or to squeeze your wallet. Speaking of, here we go, a walking simulator. Almost certainly. Road 96.
Oh my. Why?
I have no idea what this game was about either. Honestly, I can't remember anything about it. Oh, wait, yes I do. This is the procedurally generated road trip simulator.
Hooray.
So, apparently, yeah, you travel the road, you meet wacky characters, and then you move on after doing something.
Things.
It will probably end up being a walking simulator, honestly. A procedurally generated walking simulator.
But I don't want to play a walking simulator. In
Nobody
fact, I
wants
don't
to
think
play-
anybody has ever wanted to play a walking simulator before.
Yeah. So, with all that dreariness out of the way, here's something to actually get slightly intrigued about. They actually dusted
Slightly.
off Joanna Dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait to see how they molest her.
Yeah, like, the last Perfect Dark... No, actually, I tell a lie. There was another Perfect Dark game, but nobody played it because it wasn't very good. The main Perfect
Oh,
Dark game,
I played it on the 360. That one?
that one. Do you remember anything about it?
Oh, it was awful.
Yeah.
I remember playing it co-op with an online friend at the time, and the only thing he had that was notable in that conversation with that guy while we were playing was his daughter came in the room and said, "Oh, look how pretty the nails on the fingers of the girls are." Everything else about the game was forgettable and terrible.
Okay,
Well,
so all the characters have had manicures. That was the best part.
Game just didn't have much going for it. Like the franchise just didn't have much going for it. Because ultimately, Joanna Dark is not as compelling as James Bond.
No.
And
Yeah.
that's just it. James Bond has cultural inertia. Nobody knows who Joanna Dark is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the big thing with Perfect Dark, is it went head-to-head with GoldenEye.
It was
Yeah.
trying to succeed GoldenEye.
Yeah,
And-
it was trying to ride that wave, and it did enough things different on the N64. I remember liking playing it better than GoldenEye on the N64,
Mhm.
but that was basically all it existed for, was to give you a progression of the first-person shooter genre when you only have one analog stick.
Yeah. It had a lot going for it. I think actually it told a better story than GoldenEye, because ultimately GoldenEye is rehashing a movie. But it could not, and honestly nothing really has been able to dethrone GoldenEye in the multiplayer department.
Like nobody has those same memories really. Like although I have heard that for people who like didn't play video games during the era where GoldenEye was relevant and came in a little bit later, like a lot of the people that I know, they hold Halo and particularly Halo 2 in that space.
Yes. Yes, they do. But for us old people, we're not that old. Seriously.
Like
we
going to the video store and renting an N64 and a GoldenEye cartridge was definitely a thing when I was growing up.
It was a thing, and it was a big deal because you were the most popular kid in the class for a week. Unless you owned GoldenEye, in which case everyone wanted to come to your house and make you lose. Well, actually, no, you'd win all the time until someone got the
Everybody
golden
wanted
gun.
to come to your house and play as Oddjob.
Yeah,
Yes,
I was about to say
there you go.
we've made made through a whole discussion about GoldenEye 64 without talking about Oddjob.
You got to talk about Oddjob. So yeah, Perfect Dark tried to knock GoldenEye off its pedestal. I think it did in the single player mode, but not in the multiplayer. I mean,
But people didn't buy GoldenEye for the great single player mode. Although I would argue that the single player mode was actually really good. Like they did some interesting things there.
Yeah,
That weren't in Doom. They weren't in Quake. You didn't just run around and hit things. You had actual objectives and sub objectives.
instead of just run around and shoot the thing.
And there were different ways to accomplish things, and you could have different degrees of success. That was never a thing.
Here, escort this low poly civilian with the terrible AI, who will run up and immediately try to eat any proximity mine you put down.
There was also an FPS that had stealth.
Yes.
Which was very much not a thing at the time.
The only other game after that really tried stealth before it became really a thing would have been Thief.
Well, Thief wasn't a stealth game either until 2 months before it was released. And then they jammed all the stealth thing in at the last minute, which is why everybody's so astonished that it was such a stellar game.
Yeah, it had no right to actually be as good as it was, and yet somehow they managed to pull it off. Alright, so Perfect Dark is coming back. I honestly don't know how to feel about that.
I'm sure they'll ruin it. I have zero faith in their ability to make a good game out of it. The reason that they are resurrecting an old name is because they don't have confidence that they can make a new name. That's my opinion.
Definite. But the game industry has the same problems that Hollywood does, is there are no original ideas.
If they are capable of doing justice to a remake, then by that same token, they should be capable of making a new IP.
Do we have Weird Alien Elvis, is the question. Someone's playing with the light circuit in here, by the way. My lights keep flicking on and off.
Are you sure it's not just Brownout Bill at work?
No, in this case, no. It's not. Alright, next game. One that actually made me feel almost physically ill. Open Roads.
Remind me.
So, this is the one about a mother and daughter team kind of traveling around and just seeing things. But what actually made me sick is the art style. And the clashing of the art styles. You've got these beautiful 3D generated smooth terrains, but the characters are low FPS 2D characters. And it looks hideous.
I must not have been looking at the screen because I don't remember any of this.
You'd remember this because, oh my goodness gracious. Just the disconnect between... you've got the scenery and everything is moving smoothly at 60 FPS, and the characters are moving at 24 FPS if they're lucky.
Gross.
Yeah, it's yucky. That's...
Who would do this, Chief?
I don't even know what really the game was about other than mother-daughter doing a road trip. That seems to be the thing this Game Awards is, let's do a road trip.
One thing that I noticed in the game was, and this is my bias at work, so I don't know if it's true or not, is that it seemed to me like there were very few games featuring male characters.
Yeah?
It seemed like everything that was being promoted as a new announcement, well, not everything, of course, there are exceptions to this, but I felt like there was a hugely disproportionate amount of women being jammed into sort of action girl roles. And often doing things which were completely nonsensical for a woman to be capable of.
Yeah. Alright, where were we? Here we go. Who's ready for disappointment?
Are you implying that something other than that has taken place at any point so far?
Nope, but it's kind of amplified now because it's time to talk about Mass Effect.
Mass Effect.
They showed a trailer that basically just said, we are making a Mass Effect game.
To be puppeteered across the screen. I guess they resurrected Shepard once, they can do it again.
Yeah, if you watch corpses being puppeteered, you got Andromeda for that. That's literally what you're dealing with. The whole game looks like Weekend at Bernie's.
Well, Mass Effect 2, you don't play as Shepard, you play as Shepard's clone.
Or Shepard's corpse, depending on which way you interpret that.
Yeah, well... So there's nothing. There's literally nothing canonically stopping them from running off as many Xeroxes of Shepard as they want, is there?
I mean, if you've got a galaxy full of problems need solving, you've got here is generic RPG protagonists de jour.
The only guy who's ever managed to successfully accomplish anything
Yes.
in the entire universe for some reason.
So, I mean, you could do worse than running off multiple copies of Shepard and just sending him out to solve problems, unless you got Renegade Shepard, in which case he's an enormous ass while he's doing it.
It's going to look an awful if you have enough like ultra super powered people with extrajudicial powers. The universe is going to start to look very Horatio.
Yes, it will. Everyone is Shepard. I mean, we could deploy a Shepard clone to the Game Awards. I mean, there are several journalists that could do with a good punching. Yes, that is a thing you can do for those who have not played Mass Effect. You can punch a journalist.
I did very much enjoy that. you can do it not once, but several times.
You can do it multiple times. She never seemed to learn her lesson. Well, actually, I think she calls the police eventually, but
she does act as though I think that it's unfair of her to call the police because she seems to derive an awful lot of validation personally from being punched by Shepard.
She does.
So this is how I know that I'm a good journalist, is that every time I interview Shepard, he punches me in the face.
That should not be a renegade decision, IMO. That seems like you're doing a service.
That is strictly Paragon.
It's strictly Paragon. A lot of the stuff Renegade Shepard does is stuff that you, by the textbook, should not do, but it just feels right to do it in some cases.
I guess back then, most people hadn't come around to the idea that the press are the enemy of the people.
Yeah. Shepard had.
Yes.
Yeah, my Shepard had, and I was playing a Paragon Shepard, and I still picked that option.
So was I.
That smudge of red.
That's just what you do. You can't not. I mean, she's basically asking for it.
She's playing up the trope of incredibly annoying journalists.
She's playing up the trope of modern journalist.
Modern journalist. I mean, that's what I said.
I mean, she's not really playing the trope. She's just living up to the reality of journalists.
Yeah. So
this
whatever.
Is how journalists do.
All we know about this Mass Effect game is apparently it's set after the Destruction ending, and it's back in the Milky Way.
The right ending. The one that I picked. The red ending.
The red ending.
I spent 3 games trying to kill these MFers. I am not going to let them get away now. I'm going to blow every single one of them up. No, I'm not going to become one with them. I'm not going to control them. I'm not going to let them go. I'm going to kill all of them. I don't understand why so few people are allergic to that option.
I know, right? It
does make sense,
especially for Renegade.
Well, I was Paragon. But I was a very crusading sort of Paragon. I was like, okay, so all the synthetics are going to die, but we can fix that later. They're synthetics. They don't disappear.
It's fine.
We can just repair them. But I want rid of all of these Reaper dudes that have been causing me a headache for 3 straight games. I died because of them. I came back to life because of them. I then killed as many things as I could get my hands on to stop them. They are not going to leave now. Why wouldn't you? Why would you pick another ending?
Because Legion is standing right behind you making puppy dog eyes.
I don't think he was in my party at the time, but yeah, it's like he's not the Reapers are not going to get away with this. The whole point is that they're the bad guys. Why would you play their game? There's no reason to.